Settle back now, content, comfortable, well-fed, and ready for some fine entertainment. Is everybody happy? Then let's go. It's showtime.
Welcome to the Cuse Militia Podcast with those two unapologetically biased, orange-blooded homers, Sean and Joe.
Most bullshit thing I've seen in 30 years.
What's up, Cuse Nation? Thanks for tuning in to the Cuse Militia Podcast with Sean and Joe. If you like it, please share it. The universal handle for the socials is at Cuse Militia. Go there, join the militia. We are the only Syracuse sports podcast centered around giving you, the fans, a voice. Welcome. Happy Sunday morning. A little late, but we're here.
little.
Couple days. There hasn't been a whole lot going on. We got a little bit of basic news. The TBT set their guidelines.
There's been a lot going on.
We'll go through all of that. Couple guys leaving, couple guys coming. As far as football goes, we'll get into all of that, I suppose. And that's about it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we got some recruits, a couple news. I think I got my sports fix in last night, so I feel like that's why I'm in a little bit of a better mood today. So,
yeah,
UFC has been keeping me sane, and NASCAR's kind of came up here lately to help. I mean, it's crazy I say that, but
well, not really.
It's probably backwards with you, right?
yeah. I mean, at the first thought of like NASCAR without fans, it's like really kind of depressing. But when it goes,
you go to races though.
True, but when you go, plus they took a race away from Richmond and filled it with, because they're not running the regular schedule. They're running in states where they're allowed to run, and they weren't allowed to run in Virginia. So the Richmond race that was supposed to have come and gone never came because they took it and used it as a Darlington race in South Carolina.
No, I'm sure they'll reschedule it.
No, nope, they're not. There'll be a fall race there, which is great. But when you go, what was it? It was like 2 months, over 2 months. So when you go 2 months and they're like, we're going to bring back NASCAR and we're going to race at the same track, maybe 2-3 times in a row, but we're going to get these races in and there's not going to be any fans. Like, I don't care.
Not at this point, right? And especially when you look, like you care more because you went to the races, right? But when you look at the sports and like what crowds actually, like how they change games sometimes, right? I mean, we've only seen NASCAR and UFC. UFC, to me, I didn't know how that was going to be handled. It was really weird. The entrance, usually you have the entrance coming in, people are cheering, the music, and everyone's into it, and then it's just always so loud,
Yeah,
and from watching on TV now, like you can hear the coaches more, you can hear the hits more, because obviously it's not as loud, but it doesn't seem to affect the fighters.
Not at all. I mean, it doesn't really come across much different in either one of those sports, actually.
Right. You'd think, I mean, because at the end of like races, that's when the driver goes around and people are cheering and, does the burnouts and all that stuff. That's about the only time you see the crowd, right?
Right.
In UFC, it's like big hits and this and that, but really it's just around like the ends of the fights. Or if you're fighting a boring fight, then they'll let you know too, because they're going to boo. But other than that, maybe that could even be helpful for some fighters, right? Because I bet you there's been some fighters that have gotten booed because their fights are boring, and all of a sudden he's like, all right, and takes a chance, gets knocked out, and now they don't got those fans booing because they're not throwing any punches. So,
yeah,
but,
and they still did the walkouts, No, it's going to be interesting, and it may be a little different with a sport like football and basketball, where those are crowd dominant sports compared to others. NASCAR, obviously the fans aren't hyping up the drivers are not focused on that, though they can.
Well, and even golf's back.
True.
Right? So I mean, drivers are not foced on the fan. No, absolutely
but
not.
Fighters
and
might be, though. Fighters could be.
You can hear them.
Right.
You can hear them, right? But and then with golf, I'd have to imagine it's got to be easier without fans and being surrounded by hundreds or thousands of people, right? So, or the chance of someone talking in your backswing or taking a picture in your backswing, right? So even golf, that's one that I feel like could be better off. I mean, obviously there's always those
Why did they ever stop playing golf?
Well, they didn't down here in North Carolina, but They stopped the PGA Tour. I think it was because some of the players were. I think just all the major sports leagues in the United States like shut everything down, and some of the players said the same thing. And I think also there's international players too that are in the actual sport as well. So
that's true.
And they couldn't travel. But I understand what you're saying. It's you and your caddy, right? And then a couple officials.
Right.
That is the game of social distancing, right? I don't even think the closest you
think
are.
Think of another one.
Oh God, tennis.
Yeah, that's a good one. Cornhole.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. There's going to be a lot of I think there's going to be a lot of sports that are going to be like, wow, we really didn't need this. But it's going to be interesting, like you said, when it comes to basketball and football, some of these other sports. It's going to be interesting to view all these sports as they come and they start doing it without fans.
We're going to enjoy
NHL.
Yeah, we're going to enjoy watching it, but it's going to be a lot different. Yeah. With no fans, those ones.
Right.
So,
well, I mean, what kind of home court advantage do you have? I mean, they say that fans and home court advantage. I mean, sometimes in football they say sometimes, for home teams it's a touchdown. Basketball teams home court advantage. That's a real thing. You get that extra burst from that crowd.
Oh, totally. Third down on defense at home.
Yeah, keys jingling, it being loud. Yeah. I don't know. Everything's gonna feel, no matter where you are. Location-wise, everything's going to feel like a neutral game with no fans. So it's going to be weird.
Well, let's get into all this stuff here. But first, I want to tell you about the people who help distribute this show to you guys now, and that's Armchair Media. And Armchair is a collection of 50-plus podcasts, including ours, obviously. What they do is they try to localize the sports world a little bit more. We've been with them for about 2 years now, and we've enjoyed growing the show with them and with you guys, and we appreciate it. It's Armchair was a blessing, came out of the blue for us, and they do have some written stuff, but they got a lot of podcasts for NFL and NHL, a couple NHL, baseball, and some other college teams if you're into that. But starting June 1st, Bet Online, which is actually tomorrow, Bet Online will serve as the title sponsor for Armchair, and we want to welcome them. This will open up the possibility to develop merchandise lines as well as potentially host live events once we return to a semblance of normalcy. And we talked about NASCAR, we talked about UFC, we talked about golf. All of those are coming back. BetOnline has hundreds of games and events to bet on. They have live and simulated sports as well. There's a $10,000 Madden Bracket Challenge you can enter for free. Visit betonline.ag on your computer and mobile device today. Check out the action. BetOnline is your online wagering solution. Look, we'll have a promo code soon, tomorrow. So the next show, we'll have all that. But we want to thank them for coming online. To see all things Armchair, search Armchair Media wherever you get your pods. Also, check out Armchair's website, armchairmedianetwork.com, and their social is at Armchair Media. Those who can do, those who can't, take a seat, like Joe and I. Well, especially Joe. So, all right.
Unbelievable.
Joe. Look. It's having a title sponsor again is going to be a big deal. It's going to be nice. So I would like to see what BetOnline is going to do. And we've had the betting sponsorships, but BetOnline it's a little different than MyBookie, I think.
Yeah.
I've checked it out and I've read it on it. So, Anyway. If we could only get DraftKings aboard. So Joe.
Oh man.
Joe would just the promo code, that the amount of times Joe could use that promo code.
Hey man, look.
We'd be superstars.
If we had that, if it came maybe a couple weeks earlier, and I parlayed my DraftKings lineup last night, then I would have won a pretty pile of cash.
Yeah,
sure.
And I mean, hey, I'm thinking about doing the DraftKings thing too. So, especially, it sounds fun for NASCAR, to be honest with you, because we talk about your DraftKings NASCAR lineup all the time.
Well, I mean, you're my draft, or you're my NASCAR go-to, man.
Well, thank you,
Joe. I got to call you to see what's up.
Yeah, and you've done pretty good, right? I haven't steered you wrong, really, have I? No, the answer is no, Joe. The answer is no.
No.
So, a little bit of sad news. Floyd Little, who's a staple at Syracuse, obviously 77 years old. He's been diagnosed with a treatable but aggressive form of cancer. So, our prayers go out to him, and all of Cuse Nation is behind him. Obviously, this broke a couple days ago. So, was it yesterday? Day before. It was Friday,
Yep.
I believe I saw it. So, Pro Football Hall of Fame 2010 and College Football Hall of Fame in 1983. So, we're behind him. Hopefully, 77 years old. This dude does not look 77 years old. I mean,
No.
he's freaking. He looks like he's like 55, 60. It's amazing. So, anyways, we're thinking of Floyd Little right now. So the university is expecting to go ahead with football season, obviously. And I guess,
Right.
John, if you're a season ticket holder, you got an email from John Wildhack saying that the attendance was going to come with some limitations. So I guess no numbers were released. We don't know what that looks like,
Right.
how they're going to do it. But at least we have some assurance of things going into the fall. Right, Joe? We got tomorrow. Kids can voluntarily do workouts and
Right.
be on campus. So they got that to look forward to. Finally, it seems like things may be starting to move a little quicker. Maybe not quicker, but at least we're talking about it. And if we're talking about it, it's something. That's the way I look at it right now, even though I don't agree with some of the stuff. You just got to take what
Right.
you can get, right?
Right.
So anyway, I guess that's pretty much it for all that stuff. But the TBT was the real glimmer of hope, coming into this weekend. They did set out some official guidelines, and we can mention them real quick. So what they're going to do is they're going to have one location for only 24 teams. So they knocked off 40 teams. They normally do 64 teams.
Yeah.
So it's going to go
Like
from
a full NCAA bracket.
Right. And it's going to go from 64 teams to 24 teams. And the field's going to be announced next month. Well, it could be tomorrow. So we'll find out. I think we're likely in there. We've been seeded pretty high. I don't see how they don't put Boeheim's Army in there. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So they got
I'm sure there's some conversation with that, right?
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, we take it for granted that, they're going to be in there, but I just believe that, they're first of all, they're one of the most popular teams, I feel like. Right?
Yeah.
And like I said, they're seeded high. They've done okay. They didn't do good last year, but they've done okay. And you got to imagine they're going to be in there, but I hope I'm just not, taking it for granted, like I said. But
No, yeah. I don't know all the provisions that go to it, and like you said, I don't think it's going to be tomorrow. Usually there's a certain roster size you need and stuff like that. So I think
it's 7, and we have 7, and we'll go over that. So you need at least 7, and we got
there.
them.
You go.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. So players and staff will be tested upon arrival, and they will stay in specific hotels, and basically they're going to be quarantined there for the duration of this. So a positive of COVID test will lead to removal of that player who tested positive from the event.
And the team, right?
Oh, yeah, he's gone. He's going to have to leave.
No, I thought that the rules stated that the team was eliminated as well.
Oh, yeah, and his team. Yep, and his team. Yeah. So if you have
one player and the team's gone.
Yep, that's right. All participants will be retested after the mandated quarantine period and a positive test. Then, 2 would eliminate the player and his team. So the staff and everybody is going to be tested, obviously, and they're going to undergo screening. And those who bought tickets, because there's not going to be any fans, they're going to get a refund. So there's not going to be any fans, and that's kind of what we were talking about earlier, as far as this will be one of the first big tests of these types of events without fans, and it's going to be interesting. But at this point, like I said, I just want to watch some summer basketball. We all love the summer basketball.
Oh yeah, well it's going to be interesting because again, you talked about not having the fans, and now it's going to only be at one place. Now there's only 24 teams, so realistically, you're talking about what, like a little more than a Sweet 16 So you're talking about when you get around there, you're playing good teams. I mean, every team in this is going to be good. I guess what I'm trying to say.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be stiff competition for sure.
And there's going to be a whole bunch of people that are going to be kind of probably chopping at the bit to even get out and play, since every league's pretty much been canceled and everyone's just been stuck at home. So yeah, it's a good thing that we got our 7 and we got the 7 that we wanted, right? I'd have been a little nerve-wracking if we would have started scrambling and grabbed somebody that, we've had before, but maybe don't play that much, or isn't one of the guys that we're aiming for. So I'm glad we at least got 7 that they wanted, and hopefully we can add a little bit more.
Yeah.
Here's a question though.
What?
Bet Online. Do you think they're going to have
Boeheim's Army stuff? Or TBT
do you
stuff?
think they're going to have odds for TBT? Do you think that
I would say that they would.
Do you think that COVID is going to be the front runner for most wins? Are they going to get the most wins in this tournament, COVID-19?
I mean, COVID-19's got the most wins in 2020 right now.
Yeah.
So,
if they knock out 4 teams in this tournament, they're probably going to have the most wins too. So I don't know.
Do you think? I mean,
my money might be on COVID.
What are the chances that you get tested and cleared and screened and come into this tournament and then end up testing positive later?
No, I don't know.
Well, I mean, I guess it's possible.
What happens if you get to the championship and then that day one of the teams, guy tested positive?
It's gonna be brutal.
Does that mean COVID wins the championship?
Yeah. Yeah, just like Syracuse won the ACC championship.
Right.
People would say, and they would tell you that
some would say
that the Rona won the ACC championship, but the last time I looked at it, Syracuse won the last game that was fully played. So
in the ACC, yeah,
it's hard to argue that. So anyway,
yeah,
still waiting on the trophy. Still waiting on the trophy. Yeah, Chris McCullough and John Gillen will join Eric Devendorf, Tyler Lydon, Demetrius Nichols, Malachi Richardson, and Brandon Trish. They're the 6th and 7th, like we mentioned. So they're locked in with the minimum amount on the roster.
Right.
Everybody, we all know John Gillen, his 1 year. McCullough played 16 games in 2015. He was injured, and then he declared for the. It was 16, yeah, almost positive.
I'm
you
just
messing
saying,
with me? Oh, okay.
Well, trying to think back in the future. It didn't trying to think back of watching him play. It didn't seem like 16.
It didn't seem like 16 because he did really good in the beginning too. Like the beginning of his freshman season, he did really good before he started getting pushed around a little bit. But his numbers kind of went down. But those first probably the first half, maybe 8 to 10 games, he was on fire. He was doing really good. I don't know what his stats were.
He was killing Cornell and Colgate. And...
yeah, basically. But he came out as a freshman doing that, though. It's pretty impressive.
Well, yeah, but I think he was a high, wasn't he a 5-star McDonald All-American, all that? I mean,
I don't know if he was a 5-star. That's a good question. I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure he was ranked pretty high.
Well, he could have been. He was. He was a big time recruit.
Yeah.
I mean, when we landed him, that was a big deal.
Right. I mean, he only played 16 games and got drafted.
Yeah, after being injured.
He tore his ACL.
Yeah, after being injured. So, and he was supposed to play last year, and if you remember, this is kind of what sunk the ship last year. Is the Chris McCullough? He took his team overseas in the Philippines to the the championship?
I don't know if it's championship.
Well, they made it to the playoffs, right? So,
right, yeah. Him and Trish getting hurt, right?
Yeah, him and Trish, having to fulfill that contract obligation, obviously going to the playoffs like that, and then Brandon Trish getting hurt. Those were daggers.
Yeah,
I mean those were daggers last year. So
yeah, and I know that Chris McCullough, he wasn't overly really good as far as in the NBA, but
he only lasted 1 year there, right?
I think it was 2, but either way, it was one of those. I mean, I've heard nothing but good things as far. I mean, obviously, it's lower competition. It's one of those players that barely got to see, and you're kind of I'm intrigued to see his growth, and I'm glad that he likes Syracuse enough and considers Syracuse, because sometimes those 1-year guys, they're just gone and you never really hear too much about it, or about, like, from them about Syracuse. So I'm glad that he,
besides John Gillen, besides like a Carmelo Anthony, who would be considered like the biggest 1-year guy. I mean, McCullough wasn't even really 1 year. I mean, he was there 1 year and everything, but he only played 16 games.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Malachi Richardson was 1 year.
Yeah, that's true. That's another good one. I showed my hand early. John Gillen is one that I think.
Tyler Ennis was 1 year. Dante Green was 1 year.
That's right. Yep. Tyler Ennis was a big one, man. He was just so much fun to watch.
Oh yeah.
So, anyway, so we had someone else enter the transfer portal. Kadeem Trotter, he'll join Juan Wallace in trying to transfer, and that makes 2 linebackers. But we got a couple new recruits, both linebackers,
right.
just a couple days after. So the 9th and 10th, 2021 recruits. Who's this? Austin Roon, 3-star linebacker from Central Michigan, and he's now the top-rated commitment to Syracuse in this cycle. So 6'4", 220. And he had offers from Arizona State, Western Michigan, Buffalo, Toledo, and Air Force and Army. So that's a hefty list right there, Joe. It's pretty good.
Yeah, he's got we always talk about the military ones, right?
Yeah,
so,
those are big. Those are big.
To me, that
just
shouts good character.
Yes, yeah.
That just screams good character. Now, obviously, there's sometimes it's not a guarantee. But either way, to me that shouts character. And again, this really what it does too. Also, and the one thing that I'm seeing, especially when you see the transfer portal guys, the Juan Wallace and Kadeem Trotter, they don't really fit the new scheme. And I was kind of looking. I thought that this was going to happen around after spring practice anyway. Usually that's when it happens. They would have probably went through spring football. They would have done their practices, and some guys probably would find themselves low or not even on the 2 deep, and they saw younger guys ahead of them. And it's basically the scheme, and that's what happens when you change different defenses. Sometimes now you don't fit. So I saw stuff like this coming, and that's just when you look at the size of the guys that they're getting now, you can tell that it's leaning more towards his type of guys, the outside linebackers that have size that will be able to play outside linebacker, but also be able to run up and, be the defensive end for that play, right? Turn the defense into a 4-2 or something, or a 4-3 and rush the quarterback, right? So, 6'4", 220, he's got big size, and really what the key here for me is seeing the offer from Arizona State. So that just tells me that, because that's where our defensive coordinator Tony White came from.
Oh,
so that just tells
true that.
So that just tells me that this was a guy that he was targeting even when he was at Arizona State. Now he's at Syracuse, and we got rid of. I don't want to say get rid of, like we just released the guys, but
you don't want to say it, but you did.
Yeah, I did. It's harsh, right? So
Yeah,
again, we know that this is what happens when there's coaching changes and when there's scheme changes in basketball and football. We talk about it all the time, how Boeheim has no problem sitting his guys down and having an honest conversation with them about his playing time and what they think they should do. And I think that that's what coaches should do to their players instead of leaving them out in the dark, right? So if those conversations were made and then those guys decided to go to the transfer portal because they saw the writing on the wall, then I don't want to say that is like get rid of, is like that they're bad. It's just right now they don't fit, and they're going to go find some place where they do so that they can be successful. And now we're targeting guys that is going to hopefully make this defensive scheme successful.
Yeah. So, by the way, Chris McCollum played, I think 2 years total.
Who's the other guy?
Oh, Malik Matthew, 6'3", 210-pound.
See, another one, 6'3".
Yeah, and he was bumped up to a 3-star, by the way. He had offers from Boston College, Rutgers, Buffalo, Kent State, and Temple. So,
Yep.
two linebackers enter the transfer portal, and 2 new recruits come in. But I mean, what does it say, if anything, Joe, about like the younger guys from last year?
Well, yeah. I think Mikel Jones, Lee Pogba, Jeff Canton-Arku, those guys. I mean, when you look at their size, they have basically what it takes to play this type of defense, especially Jeff Canton-Arku. He's like 6'3", 6'4", so he's a monster. Pogba's 6'1". I think Mikel Jones 6'1". I think those 2 guys are looked at as the middle linebacker type guys. But I think all those guys passed the other linebackers in that 2 deep, and that's why we saw the transfer portals the way that they go. So again, I think this is going to be a situation kind of like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, 6 years back, where we had Paris Bennett and Zaire Franklin and Jonathan Thomas and all these guys come in the same class, and by sophomores they were all pretty much either starting or contributing significantly. So and we had 3 years of good to great linebacker play, college linebacker play. Weren't necessarily NFL guys, but they got the job done for us in the ACC. So again, I think we're looking at players that are going to be able to do that. It's just how fast can they get this new defensive scheme and come together and gel, and then grow up in it, because they are still relatively young.
Yeah. So how many? Do we even know how many scholarships we got left? That opened up 2, and then 2 were taken. So there's probably a ton.
Well, again, I think we're allowed 25, something like that. I think we're allowed to take somewhere between 22 and 24 this year. And right now we still only have 10 commits. So
yeah, that was 9 and 10.
But what does make this important too, and again, like I said, I don't know, when you said Austin Roon being our highest, do you know what that was according to? When it said it was our highest rated?
I don't. That was from Noon's Magician, so I don't know if it's...
Okay. Because what happened, so Jalen Moss, and then we talked, I think, to Tyler about this. I don't know if it was live on a podcast or not, but how Jalen Moss, because he was not rated, right? Then he did the verbal, and so then what happened, again, this doesn't mean that he's unrated, like he's not any stars. It's that he just wasn't rated. He verbaled to Syracuse, so 247 Sports rated him. And from what I see now, he's rated an 8 and a 3-star.
Say that again, because I think your wire's loose. Go ahead.
I said since.
What are you doing? All I asked you to do is repeat yourself. The last 10 seconds. Not even.
Oh. Well, they rated Jalen Moss.
You were so confused. I don't understand what's so confusing. You looked at me like, oh, what do I like?
Because
a
I
deer
didn't
in
know
headlights.
how far back you didn't hear. So
no, just like
really
the last little bit. The last little bit.
Basically, Jalen Moss is a 3-star now through 247 Sports. He's ranked 85th. So according to 247 Sports, he's our highest rated guy. It would be him, then Terry Lockett, then Austin Roon. Okay. And what's interesting to see, too, is looking at position ratings. Jalen Moss and Terry Lockett, the 2 defensive tackles that we have, are position rated for the class 50th and 55th. So, I mean, really, when you think about how many teams there are in college football and everything like that, to get 2 top 55 rated D tackles, it's not too shabby. So. And that also pushed Jalen Moss, I think, up to the number 4 prospect in the state of New York. And that was another reason why that Malik Matthew was a good pickup as well, because he's in state. He's from New York City, Bronx, New York, and he was, getting recruited by the Boston colleges and the Rutgers and the Temples and people that we compete in that area to try to get those local kids. So again, right now he's rated the 5th best player in New York State. So right now, more times than not, the 4th and 5th rated players in New York State aren't going to Syracuse. So, and who knows, might be a down year, might be an up year, who knows, but it's something that's promising to be able to get those in-state guys, 2 top 5 in-state guys.
Yeah. So I just looked back, and Nunes doesn't say how they came up with that. They don't give anything on that. But I just looked it up on 247, and nationally he's 1,160. But in his position, he's 63rd. And out of Michigan, he's 27th. So 3-star. I don't know where they got that from, but that's what they
it's all different. It's all over the place. Yeah. So,
yeah.
and I mean, we're still right around where we've been. Right now, our national rank, I think, is 48th as far as recruiting class.
And don't get, never mind.
What?
It's pretty good. I think we're going to finish pretty good. We're not going to,
Well, again, we don't get a lot of 4 stars, 5 stars,
right?
So
exactly, it's like a ton of 3 stars, and be lucky to get 1 4 thrown in there, So,
oh yeah, well,
at one point
I joke.
Well, at one point I saw an article that Syracuse is ranked ahead of Alabama in recruiting, and it's like
it's only because of the number of players. Yeah.
So Alabama had only had like 4 players been recruited so far, but they were all like 4 and 5-star guys. So,
yeah. See, if you look at the average, because what they end up doing is they end up doing the average rating of your prospects, of your whole recruiting class, right? Let's take your whole recruiting class, everybody's ranked, and then they do an average ranking of it. So, which, can be skewed pretty bad because you get a low 3-star. I mean, who knows what he's going to end up being anyway. And it's like, I don't know. I give my buddy at work, I kind of throw a guilt trip on him just to mess with him because we're always talking football in this, and he's a North Carolina fan. And ever since Mac Brown came back, I mean, last year he had a great recruiting, like a top 25 something recruiting class. And right now, North Carolina football is like, I feel like they're like a top 5 recruiting class right now for next year. So it's like every other day he's talking about, this 4-star, this 5-star, this, so, yeah, right now, he didn't got a 5-star, but North Carolina has 10 4-stars right now for their football recruiting.
10 4-stars.
10 4-stars.
Yeah, that's really
so.
Good.
This is all I hear at work, and this and that. You know what I mean? And meanwhile, I'm coming back and talking about recruiting a tight end from Germany, right? When we had that whole thing going on, right? So
that's right.
It's like every day I'm just like, oh yeah, he's like, he'll be any news and sit. Not hey, look, Mac, we're gonna sign 22 3-stars. We're going to be in the 50s somewhere, probably 12th, 13th in the ACC. That's what it's going to be, bud, okay? Stop asking me about recruiting because I know all you want to do is start talking about your 4-star.
Yeah, you got to wait to see how it pans out anyway.
Well, that's just it, right? I mean, no one's to say you can't. Andre Cisco is a 3-star.
I was just going to say Andre Cisco. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
either way,
yeah.
You can develop and you can find some of these diamonds in the roughs that just got under recruited, and you can be better than what your recruiting ranking says you are, but it's also subjective because it's different schools, different schemes, different, it's just.
So, I guess that's pretty much going to do it for us, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really too much else to.
There's not a ton going on unless you want to talk about Joe's card collection. He plans on pawning off in the next couple years.
Hey, look! I told you that in confidence.
So, well, it's funny because we got to talking about like old cards and stuff, and I went and broke out like I was trying to find out my old stuff. All my old good stuff was stolen by my stepbrother, who was a crackhead. So,
dude, he's listening.
I hope he is. I hope he knows
that
that I know he stole my box of cards and my brother's. I'm almost positive he stole my brother's too. Anyway, pawned him off.
I'd love to know how much money you got.
Well, my brother's collection was worth more than mine, but mine was pretty good. Mine was sentimental too. So. Anyway, I started looking for some old stuff, and I have so much Syracuse stuff that's not hung up yet because I don't have any more wall space because of all my other Syracuse stuff. I'm like, man, some of the stuff I got is good, dude. Some of the stuff I got is good as far as memorabilia. You might have the cards, but I got some pretty awesome memorabilia, man. I do.
Yeah.
So
nice.
Joe's got the Kobe Bryant rookie cards. I'd have thrown at least one of those up on eBay by now, but that's me.
Sorry, man. I'm gonna sit on that.
Yeah, I guess so.
Because the thing is, again, like I said, I mean, when we were growing up, that it was like the rise and the fall of that industry, and like all that stuff usually ends up making it back, and it just hasn't yet. So
yeah, didn't baseball play a huge part in the decline of like the Beckett values and stuff? Wasn't it baseball that really?
Honestly, I don't even know. I'd love.
I thought
to
it was the
actually
baseball.
research that.
I thought it was like the baseball strike back then that really dropped the value of cards down. And baseball's kind of always led the way in cards. I know that basketball was making a huge moves towards.
No, baseball definitely was the one that started it. I mean, right?
But basketball
the old
was
baseball with that piece of gum in there.
Oh yeah, the tops with the piece of gum, the old tops cards with the wood grain borders on them. You remember those?
Oh yeah.
And you get that hard ass gum. It takes.
Here, pop this in and chew while you go through your pack.
Yeah, and your cards are always like dusty from the gum residue. Oh man, those are the days.
Whatever that residue was.
Yeah, we still don't know. We're still alive though. We're still alive. If you chewed gum out of a Tops pack, you might not get COVID. Put it that way.
You already have the antibodies. So, but they led the way, and I think that once football and basketball started getting as popular as baseball, right? Then they started coming in, but I still think that it was kind of revolved around because the football and basketball cards, they were so new that there wasn't any of the Lou Gehrig baseball cards or the old cards. So I think that was a lot of what was keeping that, the older memorabilia, the older trading cards, in which you're talking about baseball cards in the 30s, 40s, 50s. You know what I mean? Yeah. That kind of stuff. Yeah. So I mean, once football and basketball, I mean, when that started in the 80s, the cards weren't old enough. The players were still playing this, so.
Yeah,
that's how you got to look at it, I looked at it like, I was excited when I had the Kobe Bryant things, and I'm like, well, if he ends up being a Hall of Famer, or if he ends up being this, the same thing with Shaq. If they end up being a Hall of wait forever.
Yeah, it pays off.
Yeah, it's going to eventually pay off, right? So even right now, even if I were to put like a Kobe Bryant rookie card on eBay, I could go there, test the waters to see how much, but it's all just speculation. People out there that probably know way more about it are out there trying to make it look like they're paying some sort of money, right? But they really know that at some point how much that's actually going to be. So I've heard rumors about it making its way back, and like I said, these things like this, they always come back. So when that happens, I'll be ready.
What about your Pokemon cards?
I do not have any Pokemon cards.
That's a lie. That is a lie. It's not. It is. That is not.
It's not a lie. It's not a lie. I don't have Pokemon cards. I don't have Magic cards. I didn't do that stuff, right? You know what I did have?
What about
for a little while? Remember the Pogs?
Oh yeah, I remember Pogs. What the hell? Those weren't cards though. What the hell were they?
No, those were like the little
coins,
the little circle discs, cardboards.
Yes.
And then you had the metal slammer.
Yeah. What was that all about? You and my brother played that.
I don't know. You'd slam it, and if they got flipped over, then you'd get to take them. I don't know. It's really weird.
Yeah.
It was really weird at the time, but it was Pogs, kind of just one of those things, right?
Yeah.
It's one of those phases, faded in, faded out, and
yeah, some of those Pokemon stuff at one point all kidding aside, some of those were worth money at one point.
Oh yeah, just like the whole Beanie. Remember the Beanie Babies?
Yeah, the Thai Beanie Babies. Those were big. That's a big deal at one point.
Yeah. Stupid. They were big money.
Cabbage Patch Kids too.
Garbage Pail.
Well, Cabbage Patch Dolls, and then the Garbage Pail Kids, the stickers. Yeah, you never pulled the Garbage Pail sticker off the backing. Like, you kept those, and I had them in a couple stacks with rubber bands around them. And I seen one the other day, Corona Mona, Garbage Pail Kid. Was that funny or what?
Oh yeah. I did see that.
I think I sent it to you, Corona Mona. She's got her hands full of snot and everything. So anyway, I think that's all we got.
Hey, dude, actually, I just wanted to mention because Well, we don't get to talk about it too much, and I just kind of popped up in my brain or whatever. But the sad thing about a lot of this Corona stuff too is you're starting to see these schools and these universities cut sports. Like I'm just seeing and this is what just made me, because I turned and looked on the news and it said something like that Appalachian State is cutting sports. Like I don't know how much or which ones, right? But they're doing that. Furman, and another reason why I bring this up, Furman College or Furman University, they had to cut men's and women's lacrosse. So now Syracuse is actually getting 2 transfers from Furman that are coming in next year. They also got a transfer already from Utah, and then another one from, I think, Division III Gettysburg or whatever. But I guess they're all 3 out of 4 of them are defensemen, and then it's really only going to kind of bolster what Syracuse already was. I mean, their offense was already ridiculous in the beginning of this year.
Yeah.
Most of them are going to be able to come back because they all got their year of eligibility or whatever back.
Yeah.
And now adding these defensive transfers, maybe that helps the defense, and maybe we see an even stronger Syracuse team come next spring. So
I think that Syracuse lacrosse team is going to be on a mission next year, bro. I don't think there's any doubt about it. They probably, well, maybe not they as much as the fans, but it just robbed us. We don't, like, that team was doing so good. That team was going to be so good, and we just never got to watch it come to fruition.
Right.
So,
yeah.
But everybody escaped, with the little bit of play they had, healthy, thank God, and we'll just, but they're going to be on a mission next year. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think that sport is wildly on its way up, on the upswing, as far as a fan base. And it used to be like that when we were kids.
That's because we grew up in Syracuse, right? But when we were kids, lacrosse doesn't look like it does where me and you live now. In 2000, lacrosse wasn't what it is in North Carolina. Like,
no.
And I mean, same thing with Virginia Beach.
Oh, dude, it's been in Virginia Beach, but it's just starting to gain popularity. But I'm talking about with the Syracuse fan base watching lacrosse. I'm like, when we were kids, Syracuse lacrosse was still kind of a big deal, and then it kind of like faded away.
Oh, yeah.
And it's starting to make a comeback, and big time comeback. So anyway.
Powell Brothers.
Yeah, Gate Brothers, Powell Brothers. I mean, yeah, totally. So anyway, that's it. That's all we got. I want to thank Armchair Media. Welcome aboard once again, betonline.ag. Go there, check it out. We'll get the promo codes to you ASAP. So for Joe, I'm Sean. We're out.
Thanks for listening to the Cuse Militia Podcast, the fan's voice with Sean and Joe.